sit in their normal places. It's just right right now it will sit here. If Commissioner Carter were here, she would sit where Reinhardt sits. That's how they do.
Can you hear me? Because I can't hear anything there.
Good morning, me.
Okay, now I can hear you.
Is my volume okay?
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Reinhardt. Good morning, how are you?
Good. I need to get, there we go. I couldn't see anything because I needed to put on the all of views. So, okay, so. And me is on here twice.
Somebody has to be here.
Why? Can you hear us yet? Can she hear us?
Yes.
Oh, good.
Can hear you, and me is on there as me, and then she is also on there as Council Chambers.
Oh, right here. Okay. Should we change it to say council chambers? Hi, Tina. I saw you on there. Yeah. Can you hear us? Thank you.
I'm good.
Wherever you want to be.
Yeah, I'm excellent. I forgot I was in my seat. Hey there. So you're here.
So from the world of virtual fun,
Yeah.
just agree that if there's some weird blackout thing online, you take over from the seat.
Yes.
That makes sense.
This is like the military. We
Yes.
need to have an A, B, C, and maybe a D, and then we'll still be through those by noon.
Hi, Nicole.
Like this morning when I was at the bus stop with the kids, and the bus like slow rolled past us and just kept going. And I'm like, I guess I'm driving you to school.
Speaking of, in planning this afternoon, I underappreciated I have a first grader now who's actually in school, and I have to pick the kid up the first day.
Totally, let's just
Can I push it out
reschedule.
2 weeks?
Actually, it works better for me too.
Bless you.
Yeah, I was gonna say, we gotta reschedule.
So like my life was all, you know, I found a certain equilibrium here over the last 7 years, and now it's all been thrown into chaos. And my wife and I are like, oh, shit, like we have to redo this. I'm out with my mom last night because they used to pick the kids up on Thursday. That's why we had Thursday.
I should.
But now like the first couple weeks.
Yeah.
And I was talking to her, and she's like, yeah, we're not sure what we're gonna do. And I was like, here's the thing, I need you to still pick and choose.
So can you tell me who the host is?
That's awesome.
Me Chang.
Is that me?
Yeah, me Chang, I'm the host of the Zoom.
Okay. And so you're letting people in that, because there are names here that I don't recognize, I assume that you do?
Correct, yes.
Okay.
Thanks. You know, just trying it on for size.
I know. Thank you.
And we have, in the chambers, we have Commissioner Modis Castillo and Commissioner Carter, I think.
Yes, that's correct. We are here.
And is Commissioner McGuire going to be in the chambers?
No.
Okay. So she is going to be,
She'll be
and
online.
Commissioner Ortega?
I don't think you're gonna have him today, Chair Reinhardt.
Yeah. That doesn't surprise me.
I don't know how to.
And then if for some reason we lose you at some point, if you drop off with an internet thing or something else, we have the vice chair sitting at the head of the table to be ready to carry on until you reappear with us magically.
We don't have to stand.
Okay. Perfect plan. I shouldn't have said perfect, but you know what I mean.
Commissioner Reinhardt, if we don't see McGuire online, she could be in the chamber. She's online now.
She's online, yeah.
Okay.
You saw how many 8th graders packed into my Prius.
There she is. Okay.
I was like, the bus just left us all.
Now it's been a while since we've done this. Do I do roll call on a budget committee or not?
I
No,
don't,
it's just me.
I don't think we normally do. If it's something you feel like you want to do, it would never hurt.
I think because we're doing this virtually, and it seems to, my screen is changing all over the place. So let's see if I can get this. You know what? I think I'm just gonna, are we ready to start?
We are, I'm looking at Abby and me. Can I get a thumbs up? Are we good? We're good to go on our end, Commissioner, whenever you want to go.
Okay, and I'm not sure what people are seeing as far as the screen, but right now I can only seem to get 3 of us on this screen. It seems it's bopping around a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and call this Budget Committee of the Whole to order. And I'm going to ask that each commissioner introduce themselves, and we'll do it by district number. So we'll start with Commissioner Fretham.
I am Commissioner Nicole Joy Fretham, District 1.
And I'm Commissioner Mary Jo McGuire, District 2.
Commissioner Trista Mattis Castillo, District 3.
Commissioner Tony Carter, District 4.
Commissioner Jim McDonough, District 6.
And Commissioner Victoria Reinhardt, District 7, and Chair of the Budget Committee. Commissioner Modis Castillo is Vice Chair of the committee. And I'm going to begin this budget meeting by reading a statement. Pursuant to Minnesota Statute Section 13D.021, The chair of the Ramsey County Board of Commissioners has determined that an in-person meeting is not practical or prudent because of the COVID-19 pandemic and the prevalence of the Delta variant. Commissioners will participate by telephone or other electronic means. In addition, it may not be feasible for commissioners, staff, or members of the public to be present at the regular meeting location due to the COVID-19 pandemic and the prevalence of the Delta variant. The meeting broadcast will be available online and linked via ramseycounty.us/board meetings. Members of the public and media will be able to watch the public meeting live online. This applies to our county board meetings and budget committee of the whole. Actually, any of the county board meetings that are officially county board. And we had to do this relatively quickly because, as we know, the pandemic and the Delta variant and all of these things, everything happens so quickly. And so I just want to start out by saying how much we appreciate staff and its willingness to be flexible on this, because we want to make sure that everyone is safe and can take proper precautions. As we noted at our county board meeting on Tuesday, Dr. Ogawa spoke to the fact that we are expecting that there will be, even though we had plateaued at a high number, we expect that there will be a spike because of two primary events, and that is the state fair just ending and also school starting. So we will do what we can and be leaders in this area, making sure that we are taking proper precautions, and for all of us to be in the county board office or county board chambers, as stated, is not feasible at this time because of that. So we will continue to do what we believe is absolutely best for our constituents and to get the work of the county done. So I will begin this, and since this is the first time in a year that we have done this, I will try to remember how we do all of these things and move forward with it. It would be helpful if I turned my book right side up. So let's try it that way. Okay. Whoops.
Oh no.
Sorry. Wasn't me, just the computer. Okay. On August 24th, we heard from County Manager O'Connor, who provided an overview of the 2022-2023 proposed budget. The proposed 2022-2023 budget calls for a levy increase of 1.55% in 2022 and 4.54% in 2023. Meetings with service teams on their 2022-2023 budgets start today, September 9th, and go through September 14th. Today and tomorrow, the 9th and 10th of September, we'll hear from Health and Wellness, which is the biggest service team that we have. Next week, on Monday, September 13th, we'll hear from the Economic Growth and Community Investment and the Strategic team. And on Tuesday, September 14th, we'll hear from Information and Public Records and Safety and Justice. The full schedule of the budget hearings is available online at www.ramseycounty.us/budget. The Deputy County Manager of each service team will provide an overview of the service team, key highlights in the 2022-2023 budget, and an update on its strategic priorities. The Controller will follow with major changes in the proposed budget, and each department director will present more details on their department's priorities and proposed budget. After each presentation, I will open up the floor for any questions and discussion by the County Board. Following the budget presentations on Tuesday, September 14th at 4:30 p.m., we will have the first public hearing on the 2022-2023 biennial budget. We will have both a virtual and in-person option for public comment. You can sign up to comment with the Chief Clerk at 651-266-8014, and I'll repeat that at the end, or via email at chiefclerk@ramseycounty.us, or you can sign up at the meeting. On Tuesday, September 21st, the board will set the 2022 maximum property tax levy. The second public hearing will be held on Monday, November 29th. More details on location will be available closer to that date. On Tuesday, December 14th, the Budget Committee will discuss changes to the 2022-2023 budget, if any, as requested by board members. And finally, on Tuesday, December 21st, the County Board will give the final approval to the 2022-2023 budget, including any changes approved by the committee, and set the final 2022 property tax levy. And if people think it is easy to say 2022, 2023 over and over again, it is not. So with that, I am very pleased that we're able to start today with the, I've got to get my, okay. Sorry, I am trying to get things in order here. Here we go. Okay, we will start then with Kathy Hedin, Deputy County Manager, Health and Wellness Service Team, and she is going to provide an overview in your budget books. That's on pages 440 to 452.
Good morning.
We'll turn it over.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Thank you. Good morning, Chair Reinhardt and Commissioners. Nice to see those of you here in person and to see the rest of you on the screen this morning. And thank you so much for adjusting the time for those of us who have kids starting school today. It's the first day of school for St. Paul Public Schools. It's good to be here and good to have our kiddos in school. Kathy Hedin, Deputy County Manager for the Health and Wellness Service Team. I'm excited to be here with you to kick off the service team presentations for the proposed 2022 and 2023 budget. We'll be providing the proposed budget over 2 days, and luckily for everyone here, it's not 24 hours of budget, but we're going to come back tomorrow with a couple of our departments. Today, you'll hear from Financial Assistance Services, Health and Wellness Administration Division, Veteran Services, and Public Health Departments. And again, we'll be back tomorrow afternoon with Social Services and Community Corrections Departments. I do want to take a moment to thank each of our directors for the budget team work these past 9 months. Honestly, there's been a lot of hard work, a little exhaustion, maybe some stubbornness that has kept us going through this pandemic. Honestly, the stubbornness has probably just been me. The team's actually been quite uplifting and doing a great job and have found ways to continue to be innovative and drive change. Thank you to directors Tina Curry, Jennifer Schuster-Yeager, Maria Weatherall, Sarah Hawley, Ann Barry, John Clavens, and their departments. I want to thank Finance, including Director Kutza, Deputy Director Susan Earle, and Principal Budget Analyst Tom Ock for their patience as we helped them better understand the Health and Wellness Service Team, and they helped us better understand a new vision for foundational excellence that they are moving forward with the strategic team. Big thanks to our controllers, Janelle White and Francis Odiambo, for keeping us moving through this budget process and engaging all of our budget action team, which we affectionately call the BAT, engaging all of the BATs, which are made up of finance leaders from across our service team. And thank you to our racial and health equity administrator, also on that team, who is now playing double duty as one of our directors. And a giant thank you to Jamie Levine, my administrative assistant, who has kept all of us together through this process and organized all the documents you have in front of you for the Health and Wellness Service Team budget. And finally, thank you to County Manager O'Connor, who has helped guide us along the way. So before we get into the Health and Wellness Service Team pages, on page 23 of the budget book, if you'd like to shift your way, make your way there. It's a big budget book. You'll see that the Health and Wellness Service Team is proposing to you a reduction of 17 FTEs, going from 2,304.5 approved in 2021 to a proposed 2,287.5 FTEs for both 22 and 23. These will be unfilled positions. You'll hear from a couple of our departments how unfilled positions and vacancies will challenge them moving forward. We will work, though, together to find ways to continue to provide good programs and amazing services. Health and Wellness Service Team is also proposing a budget of $366,408,061 for 22 and $365,308,493 for 23. Our proposed levy goes down by $3 million for the first year and down an additional $3 million for the second year. Part of the reduction is due to housing work moving out of the service team over to the new housing department in economic growth and community investment. And if I get any of these numbers wrong, Janelle will correct me when it's her turn. Our budget overall goes up based on projected revenue within social services as we move forward into the next 2 years. Details for the Office of Deputy County Manager begin on page 453. So if you'd like to make your way there to the back of the book. The following changes are being proposed to the Office of DCM. An additional controller, planning manager for food security coordination work, 2 positions for maximizing revenue, and a planning manager or an executive assistant are proposed to join the Deputy County Manager, the administrative assistant, the current controller, and the racial and health equity administrator to help bring the service team together and ensure departments get the support they need from this office. The 2 additional positions for revenue maximization are needed to help our controllers and departments like social services and public health create and sustain a service team that leverages all available revenue streams to reduce the burden of levy. These additional positions will support the strategic and operational needs of our large service team. We continue to learn from this pandemic and the strategies deployed around food security that were heightened over this past year with the Ramsey County COVID-19 Incident Management Team Food and Basic Needs Emergency Response Work. Many of you, alongside the team and community, were in this space. You learned through CARES evaluation work how funds enhanced existing organizations' work on food security and helped them expand services. You know that home-based meal delivery, food shelves, and school meals for youth were prioritized. Community was engaged and added their voices to the expectations of next steps, and organizations detailed how they hope Ramsey County will partner moving forward. As stated earlier, the 22-23 budget proposal includes a food security coordinator position. A huge thank you to Carissa Glatt, who is currently in that role in an interim position. That role will work to prioritize strategies and action teams to move collectively toward reaching the goals that will be defined through an assessment process and will better coordinate food security work across our countywide departments and community. As we began this process, along with finance leadership, Health and Wellness Service Team leaders felt it was important to continue to engage staff and community along the way. Learning from the town halls that took place, many of which led by our race and health equity administrators, Sarah Hawley, along with Prince Corbett and Mi Chang at the time, it's important that we engage community and our partners in the beginning of our budgeting process. We heard staff and community tell us they wanted to know many things, some of which are how are we truly focused in on the most vulnerable people in Ramsey County? They wanted to know how we measure success. Staff want to know how employee wellness is budgeted. Lots of questions about how we are investing in COVID testing and vaccination with underserved neighborhoods. Keep in mind that these sessions took place back in April when people didn't have as much access to vaccine. They want to know how we fund mental health services. They were very interested in how we invest in contracting with community organizations and how we can increase the number of smaller local vendors of diverse backgrounds and ways to remove barriers to accessing contracts. Community wanted to know how we develop our priorities and how we're going to work to help address racial inequities and wealth gaps. People want to see us reduce our physical footprint and combine service areas for more of a one-stop shop. These are all valid needs and expectations that our community and staff have of us. It was then our duty to take what we heard and incorporate those needs and expectations into the proposed budget for all of you. We're eager to work with the finance department to continue to build a participatory budgeting process, one that brings community and staff to the table routinely to assess needs and build a budget that reflects the goals of community and the vision, mission, goals, and values of Ramsey County. With input from community, staff, and leadership within departments, the following will be areas of focus as we move into the 2022-2023 proposed budget for the Health and Wellness Service Team. Human Services Technology Modernization will be a large focus of the Residents First countywide strategic priority. This work will focus on technology and process improvement with a human-centered design approach. You'll hear more about this within the Health and Wellness Administration Division budget update. Health and Wellness Admin, Financial Assistance Services, Social Services, and Public Health will continue to put resources toward advancing a holistic approach to strengthen families through investment in early childhood care and education work. For the Race and Health Equity and Shared Community Power strategic priority, staff leaders throughout the service team have been active members of many action teams, including the Racial Equity and Community Engagement Response Team, or RECERT, and are working to help departments implement the community-led equity action circle priorities of investing in cultural community liaisons, which you just heard about this past Tuesday at the board meeting in the policy discussion for RECERT's American Rescue Plan Act funds. The Equity Action Circle priority of connecting Financial Assistance Services Department staff to the Ramsey County Service Centers run by Enterprise Services within Information and Public Records service team will also be a focus. Leveraging procurement guidelines to contract directly with Black, Brown, and Indigenous owned and operated community organizations is a priority of EAC and now of our service team. And investing in the family coach model to ensure people can effectively navigate our services and the services available within our community is also a priority. Through the leadership of our formal Racial and Health Equity Administrator and in partnership with directors of the Health and Wellness Service Team departments, a new role has been added into the service team. Health and Wellness now has 10 race and health equity liaisons who report to each of the directors and have a very close working relationship with the Racial and Health Equity Administrator. The liaisons lead and develop short and long-term planning and implementation work with department leadership. They work in partnership with teams to identify race and health equity priorities, recommendations, and outcomes with community and staff at all levels. They will partner to deconstruct and reconstruct policies, procedures, services, practices, and processes within departments and will provide technical assistance, guidance, and coordination as departments move forward. Some of the liaisons have been working in departments for many years and earned this new role this past spring, while others are new. Veteran Services, as an example, is already looking at how they hire and how they engage community as a result of this work. As racial equity work moves forward, we'd love to invite the liaisons to a committee of the whole quarterly workshop in 2022 to continue to talk about this progress. Much of this work is supported financially within department budgets and through the countywide community engagement funds, which will be outlined at a future budget update by Director Tolzman of Policy and Planning. An exciting area of work that continues to grow across the service team and county in partnership with community and departments is the work to align the justice system outcomes with community values. You'll hear community corrections, social services, and public health talk about this in many ways, including their involvement along with myself in the Transforming Systems Together, or TST work. We're proud to be partnering with the community and looking forward to focusing in on the child welfare system as the TST's first North Star priority. Service team work with the Black Commission and Social Services Department work with American Indian Partnership Group will also influence the direction of the child welfare system. In addition to the TST, I'm proud to sponsor strategies alongside my colleague, Deputy County Manager Scott Williams of the Safety and Justice Team that focuses on comprehensive justice system transformation work. You'll hear in the coming weeks a proposal to utilize American Rescue Plan Act funds to focus in on community-driven, proactive wellness support work that shifts the responsibility of community violence prevention and safety from the sole responsibility of law enforcement to more partnerships like mental health co-responder models being led out of social services. This new work will include appropriate responses for people that have suffered institutional racism perpetuated by us, by government systems that include barriers and practices that harm racially and ethnically diverse communities. Yesterday's bold announcement by County Attorney Choi about pretextual traffic stops is a good example of transformational systems change that needs to take place so that mass incarceration, economic oppression, and disproportionate engagement with the criminal legal system can stop. These new responses will include positive changes in community corrections, social services, and public health, and they'll also include community as practitioners. This work proposes to invest further into the public health model of healing streets, group and gun violence intervention, prevention, and healing work, and it will invest in a new systems practitioner team, a partnership group including public health, community corrections, social services, workforce solutions, County Attorney's Office, Healing Streets, and the community ambassadors who are working to help better connect people to resources that are needed to help invest in rather than divest in their well-being. Finally, public health will continue to prioritize and lead our county through the COVID-19 pandemic. As we move into 2022, we'll work with the service team to implement a flexible workplace, the best that we can during this pandemic. We'll continue to provide care for residents at Lake Owasso Residence and Ramsey County Care Center while finding solutions for a funding model that supports the vision we all define together. Our juvenile detention center and Ramsey County correctional facilities must also be reflective of the vision and values we all lift up as we continue a path of system reform and transformational work. We've got a lot of work to do ahead of us, and we're ready for it, and we're ready to keep moving. With that, Chair Reinhardt, I'll end my remarks and move the presentation over to Controller Janelle White, who will highlight the major changes for the departments presenting today.
Thank you, Kathy.
I don't know if she has a question.
Oh, sorry.
And if I could, is it possible that what we're seeing on the screen is just the full chambers? Is it possible that we could have the camera focused on the person that's talking? Like that. That makes it a lot easier. And also, I thank you. And we will then, the major changes in the budget books are on page 32 and 33. And Janelle is first, is that correct?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Good morning, and thank you, Chair Reinhardt and Commissioners. My name is Janelle White, and I am one of the controllers for the Health and Wellness Service Team. The review of the major changes today will be for the departments who are presenting today. Review tomorrow by Francis Adiambo, the other controller for our service team, will be for the departments presenting tomorrow. Kathy did a wonderful job in her thank you to everyone involved in this budget. I would like to reiterate her thanks. It truly is a team effort, and I think our team is outstanding. As a service team, a total of $18 million and 17 positions were transferred to the Housing Stability Department in the Economic Growth and Community Investment Service Team. The Health and Wellness Service Team as a whole transferred 47 positions and their corresponding budgets from their original departments to other departments within our service team and to other service teams. The Office of Health and Wellness reflects an increased budget and an increase of 8.5 positions. This is to assist and support our Deputy County Manager. As Kathy said, 2 of these positions will concentrate on revenue opportunities and maximization. Financial Assistance Services is one of the departments transferring budget and positions to the Housing Stability Department. The transfer was $4 million and 12 positions. There will be one-time funding each year to assist financial services with the increasing backlog of cases. In an effort to align positions and programs, some of the moves of the 47, Health and Wellness Administration transferred 4 positions to Financial Assistance Services. In addition to the vacancy factor for this proposed budget, Financial Assistance Services will need to hold an additional 29 positions in 2022 and 38 positions in 2023. Health and Wellness Administration reduced their overall complement by 18 positions and the corresponding budget. They were transferred to social services, financial assistance services to better align with the programs they serve, and to the Housing Stability Department. This budget cycle for Health and Wellness Administration also reflects the electronic health records maintenance cost of $800,000. This is a new budget item for Health and Wellness Admin. Veteran Services was held harmless in this budget cycle. Being part of the service team enabled other departments to support Veteran Services with a transfer of $32,000. This is to right-size the budget and to better reflect their actual spending. The last presentation of today will be Public Health. Public Health's budgets increased by $3.1 million. The main factors are an increase in personnel costs for correctional health due to the decrease in staff turnover. It is almost to the point of having no vacancies. This is a great turnaround from what it was previously. So it's a good increase. This is also, and there is also an increase in the solid waste management due to the policies and an increase to the recycling and energy facility. Reflects an increase in revenue of $4 million. It is approximately $1 million increase in claims for services for those two positions. The revenue positions that we're adding will assist in ensuring that we reach this goal. There is also a $3 million in the solid waste. There will be presented health. We recently learned of an increase to the local public health grant of $960,000. There is a 75% match by the department for this grant. This concludes the major changes for today, and I will stand for questions.
Are there any questions from commissioners for the overview for the major changes, I guess I should say? Commissioner McDonough.
Thanks, Madam Chair. I think you might have touched base on the answer to my question here, but I just want to maybe call this out and clarify it. I'm supportive of adding the two new staff people, capturing revenue. Just, I want to get a sense of how do we do success. And I think I heard you mention that there is a benchmark tied to that because you've increased the revenue projections for the budget and you're attaching it to these two positions. But I just want to have some clarity that as we adjust and move forward, I think it's really important on the evaluation piece that we're getting what we expect when we add or change things in the budget.
Commissioner McDonough, Madam Chair, that's a really good point. I believe Jennifer Schuster-Yeager will speak to the evaluation aspect for our service team, but you're right. If you're not able to measure things, you don't know if you're obtaining your goals. Tomorrow, you will learn from Francis that increased revenue in social services for fees for services as well. So what we're trying to do is make sure that we're capturing all the revenue that we possibly can, as well as looking for other potential revenue that we haven't tapped into yet. And so these two positions will be able to steward that across our service team.
Any McDonough? I think we'll get more information on that. It sounds like right after financial assistance services.
Yeah, and maybe correct?
Go ahead.
If I could just ask one more question and maybe I'll get the answer, but then that way we'll make sure. Also, I wanted to get a sense. I really support this. I think we need to do better at this, especially with the way things are going at the federal level. I mean, there's a lot of money on the table out there and we can't afford to be letting that pass us by. I think in the past we've depended on, individuals within departments. We've had a budget, with the expectation of bringing in revenue. But it seems to me in the past we've just depended on individuals within the departments to seek, and maybe are we thinking these two will not only go after new revenue that we haven't, but start actually having the responsibility of capturing all the revenue so other folks can actually concentrate on their specific areas in their jobs rather than focusing in on trying to bring in revenue? Or are we still going to have individuals out there? How coordinated is this going to start getting? I think that's the question here.
Madam Chair, Commissioner McDonough, I'm going to answer for CFO Kutza, who had kid drop off this morning on that first day of school piece. But I'll speak for finance and the partnership here that the Deputy County Manager mentioned in her opening remarks, where we kind of work together and push each other in different ways. CFO Kutza's background at DHS suggested to her some spots where she has seen other counties more aggressively and effectively capture revenue streams for different service funding areas, which brings in funding without relying solely upon the levy, which that started a conversation then within the financial team and throughout the leadership within health and wellness about let's revenue fund these positions for the budget. So from a broad-based perspective, if we come back and these positions are reliant upon levy that is not offset by new revenue coming in, it was not a successful endeavor. And that's a pretty easy thing for us to be tracking along the way and would be a good check-in as we're listening for topics for future committees of the whole. That's a pretty easy check-in as we go along the way. It is absolutely a coordinated effort then across central finance with the department, with the service team, although you're hearing that the service team is really going to be in the leadership role in terms of ensuring that these folks are dedicated to revenue. And the last thing I will say is, yes, this is trying to get away from the, as we've called it before, individual acts of heroism from individuals doing this in their free time to saying we need people in a county of our size focused on revenue collection to maximize resources coming in to serve this community.
Thank you.
And for members of the public that are listening to the first of our things, I think that it's to note, and I was touched on several times here, is that when we talk about revenue, we're talking about revenue that will cover our costs. We're not talking about bringing in extra funds. And so it is, and most of our budget is mandated, and we must do these services either according to the federal government or the state government. And we can try to find revenue that is available for these, but it sounds like it's an easy thing to do, but it is not, because it is a very complicated funding system, especially at the federal level. And so it's either trying to find revenue to cover the costs or to cover those costs through the levy. That's pretty much, it's a simplification, but I think that it's important to note that when we are talking revenue, it is talking about covering our costs and not relying on the levy. Were there any other questions?
Has a question in the chambers.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I just want to appreciate the work that has gone into this creative process of transforming the budget to meet the needs for transformation that we have discussed for some time and have been on the road toward. I think that this budget represents a huge movement of rocks in that direction. And I just would want to ask a couple of questions related to that. First, to commend you all for the work that you have done to align the service team work and to integrate that work on behalf of supporting families in a holistic way. Do note all of the collaboration that you've spoken of between departments within the service team and also engaging departments outside of the service team. The direction that we are moving toward to work IPR in service centers with navigators and coaches and community organizations is, I think, a well thought out process of transformation. I do want to ask, because I am noting the work with Workforce Solutions, Specifically, if you can highlight, and certainly that would be for the deputy director, some of the ways in which you have used workforce solutions in order to assist the department in diversifying the workforce. There are a number of opportunities that you've listed that I know have assisted us, but the creative use of workforce solutions, I think, is something I'd appreciate hearing from you about. And as we work with other with other service teams in future budget meetings, I think it lays out an example for us. I hope that you would do that. Just briefly to highlight your creative partnerships with Workforce Solutions. And then I have one more question about the Service Center Navigator and coaching integration with health and wellness.
And I guess I am wondering at this point if those, if Deputy County Manager Hadeen could speak to whether or not those questions would be covered in some of the presentations that are coming up, because at this point we're doing major changes, and we can try to put that in, but I'm just trying to figure out what is coming after major changes.
Thank you.
So Deputy County Manager Hadeen, if you would like to respond to those now or indicate that they will be covered in future present and or tomorrow, please do so.
Thank you for the question, Commissioner Carter. I will answer part of the first question and the rest will come with the Financial Assistance Services update. We do work with Workforce Solutions. They're such a wonderful partner. The Temp Connect program, in order to move people into jobs, is something that's been ramping up, and we've seen placement of people within our service team working in various positions, and that's been a benefit and really fun process to be a part of. Healing Streets is also connecting and working to integrate jobs into the world of people that they are working with on a day-to-day basis. That also will be moving forward as that practitioner team work continues to figure out their strategies and what types of actions and how they want to move forward and work together. As for the Navigator work, Director Curry will talk about that work. That is new work, as you know, and we continue to build that process with the IPR service team to ensure that financial assistance services and our navigators and many other professionals and within our service team have a way to provide resources through that avenue. So I think I'll leave that one at that.
I thank you very much for questions in that regard as we talk with the departments.
Perfect.
I think that we are ready to move on to the presentation on financial assistance services.
Welcome and thank you, Madam Chair and Commissioners, for this opportunity to present the Financial Assistance Services Department 2022-2023 budget and performance measures. A few of my managers, Ali, Carol Rylander, and Shane Thor, are online to assist with any questions. Before I begin my presentation, I thank Alex, Susan, Francis, Enrique, Dana, and Elizabeth for their assistance in putting this budget together. I also appreciation and gratitude to the board for the support they have given FAS over the years. My presentation this morning will include a brief overview of the Financial Assistance Services Department, major changes in the proposed budget, the department residents, its measure better, and I'll wrap up with the department's race equity engagement work. The department book. FAS is a key department in achieving ladders up and safety nets for the people we serve while administering cash and medical assistance child care assistants. The department serves over 225,000 residents every month. For healthcare alone, we touch 1 in 4 residents. Daily, financial workers have an obligation to do our best work and an opportunity to impact residents' lives. Services provided by the department include eligibility screening, assessment and intake, case management, and referrals to community partners. I'll now cover major budget changes, 85 of your book. As mentioned by Janelle and Francis, levy funding for the department will decrease this biennium by 25%, or approximately the shelter team and homeless contracts being transferred to the Housing Stability Department to support the shelter's FAS staff complement is reduced to 366.5. Coupled with the levy fund transfer to sustain 2 housing contracts totaling 2 account means funding for FAS operations this biennium will be very tight. To meet the levy targets, the department will need to hold 41 positions in 2022, 15 for the 4% vacancy factor, and an additional 26 in 2023, 45 positions will need to be held. Again, 15 for the 4% vacancy factor and an additional 30 to meet budget. Holding this number of vacancies will create service delays and significantly impact the department's ability to get benefits out timely and accurately to residents. The department is appreciative that under this proposed budget, one-time funding from fund balance in the amount of $500,000 in 2022 and 2023 will allow the department to fill a few of our critical vacancies. The department also appreciates the 4 positions from Health and Wellness Administration. Those positions will be used to support our call center and race equity work. Of your handbook, I now want to go over the department's impact and reach. Over the past 18 months, the department has seen significant caseload growth in our 3 largest basic needs program areas: medical assistance, cash assistance, and food support. We are now servicing over 135,000 residents in our healthcare section alone, which is an increase of 19% from last year. I want to note these healthcare numbers do not include residents who are receiving waivered or long-term care services. These are residents receiving straight medical assistance. In our MFIP area, we are now managing over 5,200 cases, which is a 22% increase since the COVID-19 pandemic started. This increase in MFIP cases indicate that there are more families with little or no income who need assistance. We have also seen significant growth in our second largest program, food support. SNAP cases have grown 15% since the COVID-19 pandemic, and the department is now managing roughly 33,000 cases. I feel compelled to highlight these critical basic needs programs as I keep hearing the economy is returning to normal and things are getting better. However, the volume of cases the department is serving indicates there are still thousands of Ramsey County residents struggling to meet their basic needs. One area that we have not seen significant demand is in childcare. Our basic sliding fee wait list has been open for the past 16 months and there are no families waiting, meaning families needing financial support to help pay for childcare so they can work have been able to obtain it. This year, we are projected to spend 98% of our $2 million budget, serving roughly 800 families monthly. FAS has strived to be an agile department, supporting and aligning operations to meet the needs of our residents. The department has been a key partner with Information and Public Records Administration on the delivery of services at the Resident First Service Centers. I am proud to say financial workers have been embedded at each of the service centers. They are readily available to assist residents with applying for public assistance programs or answer questions regarding their public assistance case. This partnership with Information and Public Records Administration is an effort by the department to ensure that there are multiple locations across the county that residents can access public assistance programs and information. We are also exploring how we will partner with the navigators at the service centers. Recognizing employment is critical to an individual's well-being and economic prosperity, the department continues to partner with Human Resources and Workforce Solutions to provide work experience opportunities to individuals receiving infant services so they can obtain valuable job skills and exposure to government employment. I'm pleased to say the department has hired several individuals permanently through this partnership. The department is also partnering with Public Health, Workforce Solutions, and Human Resources on an enterprise-wide public health career pathways program for Ramsey County employees who are low-wage earners. This program will lift employees up on the economic ladder, thus positively impacting their well-being and prosperity. The goal is to create a registered nurse and community health worker track, two job classifications that are experiencing a shortage of workers. Although shelter services have transferred to the Housing Stability Department, the department continues to provide technical assistance and support that area. Many of the homeless residents served by the Housing Stability Department may be eligible for public assistance programs. So we want to make sure there is a process in place to connect those residents to benefits. One last point I want to make regarding the department's impact is the exciting work we are doing around community housing instability. We continue to meet regularly with the members of the Equity Action Circle Housing Committee to listen, learn, and address the systemic issues related to housing instability, specifically evictions. Our goal over the next year is to collaborate with 5 culturally specific organizations in Ramsey County to help us engage BIPOC communities and educate them on rental assistance funding when available. I now want to highlight one of the department's performance measures on page 480 of your book. The measure is percentage of emergency assistance applications approved. Emergency assistance assists low-income families facing housing instability or utility shutoff. Timely processing of these applications is a measure of how well the department can meet a resident's needs. In 2020, 31% of emergency assistance applications were approved, which is slightly below the previous year. A deeper look at the data reveals African immigrant and Asian residents have a much lower approval rate. The department's race equity liaisons plan to lead discussions with the African immigrant and Asian communities to better understand this issue and collaborate with members from these communities on strategies that can be implemented to improve the number of applications approved. This is a nice segue into other areas the department is striving to do better. Staff turnover continues to be a challenge that the department faces. Many staff who are hired are in entry-level positions and are promoting to other permanent full-time positions within the department and county. The department plans to continue working with Workforce Solutions and Human Resources to have a pool of candidates who can step into these entry-level positions when available. Ever-changing federal and state policies coupled with high caseloads make the work of a financial worker very challenging. Staff are stretched and morale has been difficult to maintain with high caseloads. To lift morale and support their fellow colleagues, the Financial Assistance Services Staff Advisory Team has created a peer-to-peer mentoring program. This staff-driven program will provide support and coaching to financial workers with a goal of reducing stress, improving accuracy and efficiency in service delivery. The program is in the midst of a soft launch now and plans to expand across the department later this month. The last area I want to touch on is technology. The department is excited about the Human Services Technology Modernization Project, which will significantly impact the work of financial workers by reducing redundant tasks and simplifying workflow processes, as well as improve the resident experience. I will now shift my comments to the department's race equity and community engagement work. Over 80% of the department's budget is in operating expenses. Residents receiving cash assistance, food support, and emergency assistance are primarily residents from racially and ethnically diverse communities. It is a priority of the department that frontline and managerial staff are reflective of the residents being served on public assistance programs. I'm pleased to say the department is one of the most diverse departments in the county. To address systemic racism that still exists in our policies and service delivery, the department has repurposed 2 vacant positions to race equity liaison positions. The liaisons will lead the department in deconstructing and reconstructing policies that have historically negatively impacted communities of color. The department is also meeting regularly with Equity Action Circle members who are part of the Family and Youth Committee. In collaboration with that committee, the department is partnering with Workforce Solutions and the Housing Stability Department on a Fail Forward project that incorporates the use of family coaches at the Family Service Center, which provides shelter to homeless families. We know homelessness is a traumatic experience for parents and children. To reduce this trauma, a family coach can serve as a trusted messenger and walk alongside the family as they work to achieve housing stability, access public assistance benefits, and obtain employment. This is a transformative change of how the department works with and supports families in moving towards their goals of self-sufficiency, emotional well-being, and economic prosperity. For the second straight year, we presented our budget to community members to hear their questions, comments, and concerns. Lastly, the department has included community members from the department's community engagement team, Ramsey United, in key county conversations, such as service delivery at the service centers and the impact of the CARES Emergency Assistance Program changes. Just recapping now, the Financial Assistance Services Department is a key player in the success of Ramsey County. Our initiatives from community conversations and collaborations, realignment of staffing, and peer-to-peer support, to name a few, are having a positive impact for Ramsey County residents. As the department strives to do better, we will continue to work in partnership with community and other service teams to create positive interactions and outcomes for Ramsey County residents. As Martin Luther King Jr. said, human progress is neither automatic nor inevitable. Every step towards the goal requires sacrifice, suffering, and struggle, the tireless exertions and passionate concern of dedicated individuals. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Director Curry. I do have a question on page 480, where you were going over the performance measures. Excuse me. And you referred to approval ratings, and the chart here actually talks about the applications that were approved. And so I guess I'm wondering what your thoughts are on, it seems like these numbers are pretty low as far as those that are approved. And the approval ratings obviously are a different subject. That's actually about the interaction. But what is there an average when you look at this area of how many are approved so that people receive the assistance? And how many applications come in? I mean, it's kind of hard to put this into context because well, obviously it's a percentage. So if 100 come in, that looks like the highest that gets approved out of 100 is 36. Unless I'm reading it wrong. So what are we striving for here?
Thank you, Madam Chair, for your question, and commissioners. We are striving to definitely increase the percentage of applications approved. Our current percentage overall is 35%.
Okay.
And for African immigrant and Asian communities, it's even lower than that. So the goal overall is to increase that percentage, approval percentage, particularly for those ethnic and diverse communities.
Well, and there are rules that we have to follow for federal and state guidelines to be able to provide these funds. And so not everything comes in, not everything that comes in would be approved. That is not the goal here. The goal is to make sure that we're providing the services and the basic needs funding to either move up that ladder or to be a safety net and moving forward. And I guess the other question that I have is on Tuesday during our workshop, we talked about the high turnover in financial assistance services and the high stress of that job, and the corresponding, actually, or not corresponding, the lower pay. These are lower paid positions as well, and I know the Gallagher study is going to give us information on that as we move forward. But I suspect that the high turnover rate has something to do with the approval, the number of applications that are approved as well. And I just wanted to touch on that and to remind commissioners about that issue as we were talking about it on Tuesday. So your thoughts on that, Director Curry?
Thank you, Madam Chair and commissioners. I think that we do have some vacancies in that area that approve the emergency assistance application. So it is an area of concern, and that does impact the approval rates or the timeliness of getting applications approved.
Okay, I see Commissioner Fretham has her hand up.
Yeah, just on the EA applications, just wondering if you can explain the percentages. So for each of these kind of subgroups that we've split out by race and ethnicity, is that percentage the number of approved over all applications that were submitted, or applications submitted from people within that racial or ethnic group?
Commissioner Fretham, Madam Chair, I believe that is the percentage for all those applications that were submitted. But I can double check with the evaluation team, but I believe it is the percentage of all the applications that were submitted.
That would be helpful because, you know, an 8% approval rate for other Asian immigrants is concerning if 31% were approved, but if only 2% of the applications we received were from people of that racial and ethnic group, then 8% might actually be good. So without that context, it's hard to really evaluate these numbers.
Madam Chair, if I may ask questions from the chamber.
Yes.
Yeah.
And if you could just identify yourself, because I was like, okay, I recognize the voice this time.
Thanks. You know, it's Commissioner Castillo. Yes, thank you. And I know Commissioner Carter has some questions too. It's a little harder for us, so we'll figure this out. But I have a couple concerns. I'm a little bit alarmed that, you know, last year we talked about the extensive workloads for FAS workers. We know, as you have laid out, there's been an increased need and demand on FAS throughout the pandemic. And I know, you know, based on the budget and the levy numbers, we've held positions open. But in this particular area, it's really frightening and alarming, that we have so many vacancies. If we're, our staff are overwhelmed and stressed, that we have to create a whole new stress management system for them. I think that we're not getting to the root of the problem, especially because we know financial services are critical for our community. And so I'm really concerned about these proposed cuts. I appreciate we're trying to manage a budget, but I think this is an area that we need to perhaps look at adjusting. And I guess my question, Director Curry, is, there's some technical improvements that may help along the way. But what do you predict as based on these numbers of how many people get approved for services, what do you see that is coming if we continue to hold cuts and vacancies?
Thank you, Commissioner Montecastillo and Madam Chair. I see that we will probably have, excuse me, I had a beam there. I see that we will have additional cases that may not be approved. Okay, there will be a delay in services because applications will be pending. We are trying to get vacancies filled, but we also have the vacancies that we have to hold. We've seen a significant increase in our caseload sizes once the pandemic hit. There was a downward spiral and cases were going down in the areas, particularly SNAP, but once the pandemic hit, caseload significantly rose again.
Thank you, Director Curry.
Madam Chair.
Yes, go ahead,
Commissioner
please.
Montecastillo, is the percentage approved? I guess my assumption was that the percentage approved is about whether or not they qualify. But I'm kind of hearing now, based on Commissioner Montecastillo's question, that it's based on if they can get to them. So which is it? Because approval to me means somebody's looked at it and said, yes, you qualify. Are you saying that it's the approved is just because they've been able to get to them and there are people that qualify that are not getting funded?
So, Madam Chair and Commissioner Montecastillo, with regards to the approvals, the percentages are within the group and not overall. I stand corrected on my earlier comment on that. And I also have Evaluation Supervisor Dana DeMaster on the call with us that can provide additional context.
Go ahead, Dana.
Hi, commissioners and everybody. Okay, so the question, within the percentages, they're broken out. The denominator is the number of people within that racial or ethnic group who applied, and the numerator is the number who were approved. And this doesn't look at timeliness. It is just whether of the total applications that came in, how many then were subsequently approved versus denied. And so timeliness would be another question. These could have been approved within 2 days of applying, or they could have been approved at over 30 days of applying, but that's the ones that were approved. Does that answer the question for the commissioners?
Okay, so every application is reviewed.
Yes.
Okay, that's where I was getting a kind of a mixed message about whether or not they were approved or denied or simply not gotten to in time. I think it would be helpful for us to have more information as we move forward about why, what those guidelines are for approval or denial, because it just seems like, people are in crisis, obviously, when they're applying, and we need to make sure that we're following all the guidelines, but it would be helpful to know what the expectation is. And if there are some that, I guess the timeliness of it would be something that would be helpful into the future as well, unless that's someplace else in our document, but I don't think I saw that. Because the timeliness, again, these are families that are in crisis. We all know that. And so if you're in a crisis and you have to wait I don't know, I don't even know what to guess as far as how long, but that could be, I mean, quite frankly, it could be life or death, depending on what is happening with that family. And is there are things that are more life-sustaining, I guess? Is there a priority as they come in, or is it just, whenever your application happens to come through? And then I'm going to turn it back over to Commissioner Matas Castillo, because I'm kind of grabbing all of her questions, because it really was a red flag for me.
Yeah. Thank you, Madam Chair, and I agree. I think this is a red flag, and we need to think about how long it takes to approve. I see Director Hadeen in the chambers would like to respond to the question.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Commissioner Matas Castillo. I think our challenge too, and we are, Director Curry did note the one-time funds to come in to address the challenges that we're seeing. As we move forward, as I had said in my remarks about the work around connecting FAS to the navigators and that work, we have a challenge that's an opportunity to figure out how do we think about doing this work a little differently so that we can make sure that we are working with people who need services right away. And so, as you know, during this pandemic, it's a challenge to move work forward quickly. But it is on our priority to ensure that FAS gets what they need, and that the staff are supported, as well as working in a new way, in a new model, to ensure that our residents get what they need when they come to any one of our doors.
Thank you. I have one additional question, Madam Chair. And Director Curry, you mentioned that you, for the second year in a row, you went to community and held conversations about this budget. What I'd like to know is what those community conversations yielded, and how did the community and people that are being served by FAS felt about these proposed changes to the budget and to the staffing levels, as well as the performance measures?
Thank you, Commissioner Mata Castillo, and Madam Chair, for the question. I think the community had some concerns. We had noted that over 80% of our budget is on operation expenses. So they had raised some questions regarding could some of our funds that are currently directed to some of our larger contracts, such as interpreter services, could they be shifted, and could we hire more bilingual staff? Okay, so that was one of the big takeaways from that conversation. I think they were very receptive and engaged, and they encouraged us to come back. So we will continue having those conversations.
Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Matas Castillo, I think as Vice Chair and being in the chambers, I'm going to rely on you to draw my attention to who is raising their hand there, sure, whether it's staff or Commissioner Carter or yourself. And for right now, were your questions answered?
Yes, and Commissioner Carter does have her hand raised as well. So does the CFO, Kutska, has joined us and has her hand raised up.
Okay, we will go to Commissioner Carter, Director Kutska, and then Commissioner McDonough and McGuire.
Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Carter.
Thank you very much. I do appreciate the questioning regarding the staffing vacancies and the budget reductions in FAS. They have been concerns as well for me, and I know for all of us, as we look at the challenges, particularly meeting the needs for processing applications in a timely and accurate fashion so that we are able to get benefits out as needed by people in our community. I want to compliment that in this presentation from FAS, you have also addressed the collaborative work that we are doing with IPR and service centers, and also with other service teams, so that we are able to get to community and to see needs earlier, and to be able to apply resources to assist those needs. This, of course, is a transition, and we are not sure of how, in fact, effective we will be in the short term. As we make that transition, we need to keep our eyes on the assistance that we have in FAS to work with people to ensure that timeliness and accuracy. So I appreciate your attention there and continue to want to know how in assessment we are able to review the actuality on the ground and to make adjustments as necessary beyond the funds that are provided to assist today. I want to compliment again that you have touched on the questions well that I asked about the collaboration with Workforce Solutions and the assistance and creative work you are doing to provide those work experiences for financial assistance individuals, and also to create job category work or tracks toward job categories so that people can find work experience in financial assistance services. I appreciate that, and the model that you have illustrated for the county in doing that work. So I wanted to highlight that. Thank Commissioner Maz-Castillo for the question regarding vacant positions and its impacts. And finally, I have a question about childcare. I am very impressed that we are going to spend 98% of that budget and be able to serve 800 families a month with no waiting list currently. I am also concerned that those numbers could be down of applications because of pandemic, and that as we work through and recover from the pandemic, those numbers could grow exponentially. And I'd like to ask a question about our current numbers as compared to past experiences when we have not been able to provide the support and use the budget that we have had. Can someone talk to, the relationship of how we've done in the past to what is happening here and our expectation for 2022 and 23?
Director Curry.
Commissioner Carter, Madam Chair. So we have seen a decline. We initially saw a decline in the number of families served, and I would say that decline started early in the pandemic. It has slowly increased. We've seen a high spike in over 800 families this summer, and now it has tapered off this past couple of months. So we are now hovering around 790, 800 families we're serving per month.
So is the expectation then?
The expectation, well, we've continued to have our wait list open. So we are encouraging families to apply if they are in need of childcare. We still could serve probably around 20, 25. At our current spending, we would spend 98% of the budget. So we have the capacity to serve some additional families. I wouldn't say a significant high number, but we do have capacity to serve additional families.
Again, I don't know what that relationship to what we've seen in the past in terms of applications and our ability to serve may be, but I would appreciate knowing more about that experience of the past, our expectation for the future, and what we can do if in fact we are over subscribed and end up with that wait list. I know we've had those challenges in the past, and it has been difficult to meet the needs. So I'm curious about what we will do should we see that again.
So I will ask, unless you have the information right now, I do an overview at the end of each of the budget meetings. And it sounds like we want to actually have numbers. Okay, so the 700 and I think you said 720 families. What was it pre-pandemic that we served?
That's
to kind of
correct.
give us the context for it. So what was it? Do you know pre-pandemic, or is that something you want to come back to us with?
Madam Chair, I'll come back to you with that number.
Okay.
Thank you.
That's what you were getting at, right, Commissioner Carter?
That is correct. I'd like us to be prepared and to know what our next steps to provide the services as needed or the funds as needed would be.
Okay, thank you. CFO Kutsa?
Thank you, Madam Chair, Commissioners. I just wanted to note, as Director Curry said, and I noted earlier a couple weeks ago in my presentation, this is not an easy budget. I'm not going to pretend it's an easy budget. And Commissioner Matas Castillo mentioned there were cuts here. I'm struggling in that space. I would not characterize them that way. I also want to raise up what a vacancy rate is, right? Director Curry said, we have a hard time keeping people and we have high turnover. That creates natural vacancy. That is not her holding positions vacant. That's why we budget for it, because there's natural turnover in any budget, and that creates savings as you fill positions. And often, no matter how hard we try, as I experienced this morning with the lack of bus drivers, you often can't fill positions in the same timely manner, and so it creates natural savings. And the budget, to be accurate and transparent, accounts for that. So the 4% vacancy rate, actually FAS runs a higher vacancy rate in general than that. There are additional vacancies in this budget that are being held to try and make this budget and make health and wellness closer to actuals. They're also getting one-time money, which is one of only 2 areas in this entire budget, because we did recognize, as we thoughtfully tried to put together this budget, that this is an area where, as you mentioned, we don't want to cut back. But there are also a couple other things happening. As Director Hadim mentioned, there is the enterprise services with the navigators, and there's also federal money coming into families that we've never experienced before that's going to have an impact. So I would like to say I want to work really hard with health and wellness controllers and with Director Curry and watch this and make sure, our bets are right. But I think this budget, I wouldn't characterize it as a cut. I would characterize it as a budget that's going to need to be managed and watched. And as we see how Director Curry works with the enterprise services and the federal money comes in and how their vacancies play out, we are always in conversation about how you flex vacancies across health and wellness overall and the whole enterprise if needed. So I just wanted to raise that up to make sure, we thoughtfully, and Director Curry and Deputy County Manager Hadeen did raise these issues, and we tried to address them as best we could.
Thank you for that.
Thank you. That context really helps a lot.
It does, Madam Chair. If I may just ask a question to Director Kutsa on this particular topic. So I appreciate that clarification that it's not cuts. I guess my biggest concern is with the vacancies that we're holding, what will that do to caseloads, and will we continue to be able to process? That's my biggest concern there. So I appreciate your clarification, but what will that do to caseloads?
Madam Chair, just one last piece to it. And I think, this is the right spot. And as we move forward through next year and the continued ARPA investments and seeing where we sit, this is a question that will remain with us. So there's no perfect answer in crystal ball today. The one other piece I would add is we don't know the impact yet of some of the child investments that have come from the federal government. There's been a proposed, $3 trillion budget. These things would fundamentally reshape the ways in which counties would actually do this work. And so part of it is trying to both buttress the organization, as Director Kutsa mentioned, while recognizing the forces around us, and yet needing to then continue to be very closely monitoring it the next 2 years, because there's so much we just don't completely know right now.
Lots of moving parts.
Thank you. Commissioner McDonough.
Thanks, Madam Chair. I want to go back to, there was a lot of conversations around the FAS and the approval rating, and I just would need some clarification here, because on the surface, numbers of 31, 35, 36 approval would suggest, that's not good. But it's the approval qualification, and if they're not qualifying or meeting the criteria, they're not going to get approved. There's no judgment in that. It's based on data and information that's provided by the individual applying. So I think, and Dana might have called it out. To me, the issue is really more about the timeliness of how fast we process these on using it as a benchmark that we're doing a good job. It does, it does beg the question, though, if that's accurate on the approval, even though 35%, 31% seems low, if it's based on the data, then we're doing the right things because we're going to get audited and we can't just, we have to make sure we're saying yes based on the criteria. But if we're showing disparities in the approval, then I'm wondering, are there disparities built into the qualifications or criteria that are keeping, some of our families or individuals out? And do we need to take a look at that working with AMC or the state? Because if it's based on criteria, we should not be seeing disparities if there's no judgment involved.
Commissioner McDonough, Madam Chair, Dana DeMaster can speak to that.
Commissioner Reinhardt and commissioners, yes, there are criteria that FAS workers are following, but even within our criteria, I mean, we know that the changing some of these things that were particularly changed during the pandemic, and advocating for those changes through AMC and at the state would probably be helpful. But the work that Director Curry is doing with the race health equity liaisons to talk to people in these communities, these are long-standing disparities that we've looked at for years. They're not new to the pandemic. And a lot of the questions that my team have asked, and I know that Director Curry have asked, is, for instance, there's required verifications. And those are set what you need to verify. But how you verify them, there's some flexibility. And also different groups have different access to those types of documents. And so that's one theory, right? But talking to those communities, we know that one of the largest denial reasons is due to a lack of verifications. So how can we work better and partner better with communities to help them get the verifications or other things they need to know to be able to apply and then get approved? And then with other things, for instance, there's like household size, who has income in the household, what is the household composition? And we know with many of our immigrant communities, there are all different, intergenerational households with different types of income. They're just theories that I hope we can address through race health equity work to really get at, are we following the rules right now? Yes. But can we help people who have a need to get that need fulfilled and also follow the rules? Does that answer your question?
Yeah, no, that's really helpful because I got the sense we were focusing in on 31 or 35% as good or bad. And to me, it's more about the disparities and are we actually helping people that are truly in need? And where do we have to put the attention? It's not necessarily moving the approval rating to 50% because the criteria won't allow people behind because they can't do the verification or some of these other things, and some of that might require us to do some, again, advocating or changing of either administration rules and regs or statutes.
And I think we've had, actually, during the pandemic, some of the waivers that we had put in place that were made permanent, we need to look at those even more closely. For example, when you talk about verification, okay, you get the information in, it comes into our system from the calls you have to do. And if you miss one and it's not caught right away, suddenly you've got a month's worth of re-verify because that's the way it is written. Does cause some angst and some, people not getting the funds that they deserve. So I think that, the looking at that and looking at the criteria and the rules, and as we have done within Ramsey in the justice system, is digging deep into what biases may be built in that, and then what are the solutions that we have to do, and oftentimes that's going to be legislation or request for clarification on the rules and criteria. So really good point, Commissioner McDonough. Commissioner McGuire.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I also appreciate the questions and comments made by my colleagues, and especially these last ones made by Commissioner McDonough, because that is where my questions or my comments were going to come from. As we have referenced, we all were in a workshop on Tuesday and heard about the FAS workers and some of our concerns with that, and just hearing this presentation, I'm just going to comment that I'm grateful that our director Hadeen and CFO Kutza, mentioned that, had some context there, but that we are trying to do work differently. We're trying to move forward quickly. We do have a work overload, and we do want to work in a new way. And so I'm just concerned, and I'm just putting it out there because I think this is going to come up in a number of budget areas, in that, oftentimes when you have a large caseload and when you're trying to do work really fast, you don't often take time to say, is this the best way to do it, or is there something that could change to make it be better? Where is our ability to do continuous improvement? Are we giving our employees an opportunity to say, this would be better if we could do this? But sometimes, you're just working so fast that you're not able to ask those questions. You're not able to say maybe something else could be better. So, and I'm saying again, this is not just for this budget, but this is for every area of our county. I'm going to be, wondering, are we giving our employees an opportunity, to ask these questions, to say, how could we do this better? So I'm just putting it out there that this is one area that I'm glad I heard people talk about the desire to do this. And I know it's tough in a tough budget year, in a time when we have a lot of work to do, but I just hope that we can still find an opportunity for our employees to figure out if there's a better way to do it, or a better way to do it more equitably, a way to do it with less disparities. I just feel like we need to be able to be asking those questions. We can't be working so fast that we don't ask those questions. So I don't know who wants to take that question, but I'm putting it out there. Maybe, our county manager and all of our directors, all of our deputy county managers. I'm just hoping that in every area of our county, we're looking at that.
Commissioner Reinhardt, this is Deputy County Manager Hadeen. Commissioner McGuire, I think your point is excellent. Working with great need in our, we are, it's our job to ensure that we are processing, and that doesn't leave a lot of space to be innovative and to stop and to raise your hand and say, hey, and be heard and say, hey, I don't think this works correctly. I think we need to shift. And that's something that we will continue to do more of as we move forward in this process in the next 2 years. We have to improve the way in which we do this work and continue to invest in the staff and residents that we're working with.
And I really appreciate that. Just the acknowledgement that is what we need to be doing is really helpful. Thank you so much. I believe that we all want that to happen, and I just want to say that I will absolutely support, anything we can do to help our employees feel that is something they should be doing, is asking those questions, maybe taking a little more time, but asking those questions. Thank you.
Well, and asking those questions and knowing that they're going to be heard, and sometimes that comes down to time as well. So with the navigators, with the work that we're doing on the partnerships, both internal and external, hopefully we can take time to breathe and get that information out. And again, we're not going to get responses from the staff doing the work unless we have time to listen. And say, hey, does that make sense? And maybe, it doesn't, something that's electronic, to take the time and make sure that we're going through the suggestions and ideas that people have.
Thank you. But thank you, Madam Chair. Well said again.
Thank you. Okay, are there any other questions for Director Curry? We covered a lot. And so we will move on then, if I don't see any hands or hear from Commissioner Matas Castillo. We'll move on to the Health and Wellness Administration. Jennifer Schuster-Jager is the director. This is on pages 464 to 476 of your budget books.
Thank you, Commissioner and Madam Chair. I am glad to be here today. I'm Jennifer Schuster-Jager. I'm the Interim Director of the Health and Wellness Administrative Division. And I just want to appreciate my colleagues in Health and Wellness, Deputy County Manager Hadeen, the other directors. We've worked really closely together to create this budget. And it feels like it's really been a team effort, and I'm pleased to be here and pleased to be serving with the leadership that you all provide around race and health equity. I feel proud almost every day that I watch a board meeting. So I want to talk a little bit about the Health and Wellness Administrative Division, and I think that some of the questions you've just been raising about how we know what we're doing, how we improve our technology, how we listen to our folks, a lot of that skill set is rooted in the kinds of administrative support that the Health and Wellness Administrative Division provides. Dana DeMaster has just been talking about data and reporting, and you see how important that is. And I'll be talking some about our technology modernization efforts that Tina and Kathy both mentioned as a part of how we're listening to people and how we're trying to make things better. Before I dig into the budget pieces, I would just want to thank my team of managers, particularly Enrique Rivera, who is done a lion's share of the work on our budget and a great deal of work on other folks' budgets, working with Francis and Janelle. Dana DeMaster, who has really helped with the writing and the performance management, again, across the whole service team. Mizen Al-Humayani and Melissa Porter for their technology leadership, and Joe Friesmeyer for his leadership in contracts. Deb Trudeau, who's running our operations, our scan center, all those operations that make the work that Tina talked about possible. Amy Zhang, who is our race health equity liaison and has been a tremendous resource, and December Brakefield, who's our new early childhood care and education coordinator. So as Commissioner Reinhardt said, our budget starts on page 464. The proposed health and wellness budget for 2022 is $30.5 million, and in 2023, $30.3 million. And this is overall a 2% decrease over the biennium. The complement for the Health and Wellness Administrative Division is 125.85 FTEs, and that is a decrease of 18 FTEs from 2021. Although that is a substantial decrease, this decrease reflects, to some extent, a true-up of positions that have been moved as we have been moving into more fully into our service team structure. We have been moving positions, what belongs in health and wellness, what belongs in other operational areas, and there have been changes that happened over the course of the biennium, and then others have reflect a more recent staff reallocation related to the themes you've already been hearing about, the establishment of the Housing Stability Department, as well as trying to move our resources to be more lined up with where the operations are happening. Our performance measures are on page 467, and they reflect the themes are our desire to include people who are impacted by all of our services in our decision making, and then improving how we actually do our operations, paying vendors and paying foster care providers. So there's three themes I want to talk about in my budget presentation today, and how the budget relates to those themes. The first theme is bringing to sort of fruition this new service center service team approach, and how we've been disentangling the old, what used to be one Department of Community Human Services, and trying to restructure both the resources and the services so that they fit where the operations are. The second theme is the joy and richness of working with community over the past few years and how that's changing our services and structures. And then the third theme is investing in technology, and that's both operations and strategy to better serve residents and make work easier for our staff. And I hope some of the conversation will shed some light on the conversation we were just having about how do we do process improvement, how do we listen to people in the operations, and how can technology support that. So in terms of the service team structure and the departments, you'll see that in the budget, in the moving from 2021 to 2022, our planning unit has been reallocated. And the purpose of the reallocation is to put the resources so that they're connected to where the services are delivered. So for example, we had people working in the planning unit that were doing housing work. Those staff have moved to the Housing Stability Department. We had planners who were working on social services and FAS, and those resources have moved to those departments. And we had a Citizens Advisory Council that was serving social services, responsibility of that. So now the resource lines up with where the authority and the responsibility is. And we also had planners who were working on contracting, and those resources have moved to the contracting department. So that is a major change in our structure, and I think reflective of our move forward with the department. Another important piece of our bringing this to fruition is our budget disentangle project. Our budget currently has had a mix of pieces from the old CHS and what parts we supported. And we have been working closely with Alex Kutza and with Susan Earle, and it's been a tremendous partnership to figure out how to have our budget align better with our operations so that we have better accountability. Department directors understand what resources they have and they're able to innovate, and we have easier reporting and management of our budgets. So I think this also supports the questions that Commissioner McDonough asked earlier about the revenue maximization. When we're reporting our revenue to the department where it belongs, it will be easier to track that and easier to see where we need to make changes. So again, I think this is part of that foundational excellence that the county board has been talking about, not so much in the current investment, but how do we set up our services and our structures to understand what revenue is coming in, what's going out, and then to enable department directors and service teams to better manage that. The changes that will be made to the structure to put our budgets more operationally will happen operationally in 2022. The budget, you will see some changes when not changes to what you're allocating, not changes to what is budgeted, but changes to the structure. And we're working closely with Director Kutza on that. Another piece of sort of bringing things to fruition in terms of the service team is our evaluation and reporting capacity. I know as a board, you are all well aware of the fantastic work that the evaluation team has done, both serving the health and wellness service team, but across the county with CARES funding and with the other departments. That excellent work will continue, and we'll continue to work with Director Tolzman and with County Manager O'Connor on how that's going to look across the county. But we know that that work, that evaluation work and that data work is essential to being able to continue to transform our services. And in the coming budget year, we are going to be increasing our capacity to do routine reporting so that the kinds of questions that are asked in this budget that directors need to know to do their business and to transform their business, that we can answer them more quickly and easily. And that piece is tightly tied to modernizing our technology as well. So those are some of the foundational pieces that we've been working on and changes that you see in our budget that are related to the service team. The second piece I wanted to talk about is how we've worked with the community and how that's impacted what you see in our budget. You've already heard that we had budget town hall meetings, and shockingly in our budget town hall, the community talked a lot about contracts. I thought we were going to have a town hall meeting and no one would talk about administration, but no, they were actually really interested and they had a lot to say. And how we contract with people is really important to our community. And we heard a lot in the contracting about how difficult it can be to us. And so we have an initiative to try and move towards community contract. We also conducted focus groups, 5 culturally specific focus groups with vendors last year. And that might have been one of my work highlights of the year, was listening to those communities talk about what it's like to work with us. And from that work, we really heard that we need to build a more equitable contracting process, that we need to provide technical assistance to vendors so that they are able to apply and have a better chance of being successful, and a very clear request that we take a more relational approach and partner with people rather than kind of an arm's length definition of fairness. So we're working on those things internally within the Health and Wellness Administrative Division. We have a goal of including community at every decision point in the contracting process, having community members read an RFP before it's posted to see if it makes sense to them, having them on panels with us, having them as a part of monitoring. So that's an aspirational goal. We've made good progress in having people on evaluation panels, and right now we're working closely with social services and have a more inclusive panel than we've had in the past. And that's slow and it takes work, but it's also really exciting. So, and we're working closely with procurement and with their procurement redesign process. So that's one place where community has made a big difference for us, and we'll continue to work on that. Another place where community engagement has made a really big impact is in our work in early childhood care and education. And we have had a very deep and productive relationship with the Equity Action Circle Family and Youth Committee. I want to thank also Commissioners Fretham and McGuire for their leadership in this space, and Directors Tolzman and Becker, who are really key partners. We have worked with the EAC Family and Youth Committee to develop a new approach to working with families with young children. Co-developed a grant that includes the family coach model. Dollars from that grant will go to the community to support young families and to have family coaches who work with families where they are with both community and county resources. And December Brakefield is leading this work. And I look forward to seeing us work in a number of different areas across the county in the coming years, which is providing strategic coordination across the whole county, making sure that we engage with families and communities where they are, working on providing access to high quality and affordable early care and education, of which CCAP, which you just discussed, is an important piece. But there's also scholarships and other forms of childcare and early Head Start that we can leverage in addition to CCAP. And then also trying to make sure that we have a well-trained workforce in childcare that gets a livable wage or has successful businesses. So working together with all of those partners, December Brakefield is a wonderful focal point, a hub of this effort. And I think it's an exciting piece that has really grown out and co-developed with the community. Finally, working with the community, we have also worked with the community in new ways around our technology development and trying to engage the community in decision-making about technology and asking them what's of value to them. So as we think about having potentially a patient portal with our new electronic health record, is that going to work for people? What do they want? What do they need? And we are convening users early on in our technology decisions. The third piece I wanted to talk about is about investing in technology, both operations and modernization. There's a couple of important pieces here. So today we have finished the final launch of our electronic health record, NextGen, and we are now live in the facility detention center. We have completed the initial deployment of the health record. This has been a many-year-long project. I want to thank Melissa Porter, who's leading the capability team, and there are too many people to name who have been supportive of this over the years. This is a giant accomplishment, and we've funded this effort over the past years using project dollars. But what you'll see in this budget, and that we hadn't accounted for, is that to keep the electronic health record functional just to pay the vendor costs us $800,000 a year. And that's an operating budget cost. That had not been in the budget. So the 22-23 budget reflects a contribution from 4 departments within the Health and Wellness Service team, putting in $200,000 each to make sure that we have operational funds to pay for the electronic health record. And one of our budgeting challenges ongoing is making sure that when we make an investment in a project or a new tool, that we also have the resources to support it after it's implemented, and that includes the costs of the actual application as well as the staff to support that. I'm happy to report that the electronic health record in the 22 and 23 budget is fully funded, as is the capability team that will support that. We'll see how that turns out in terms of what kind of support is needed in the long run, because we are finally have full implementation now across the county at the mental health center, in correctional health, and in detox. And that is it's been a long time coming. The other thing I want to say about the electronic health record is the implementation of that tool should support the revenue goals that we were talking about earlier, because the electronic health record allows for some more precision around billing, and we need to build up our capacity to use that, but that will be an important tool. So it's a tool for the revenue component. The last thing I want to talk about is human services modernization. This has been a major effort. We have human services is a unique place. It is a state supervised and county operated system. And as far as technology goes, we have to use the technology pieces that the state provides, but we also have to add on to them. So it's not something that we just go out and buy. It's provided to us as it is. So all of our work around technology and human services modernization has to be done with the state and also with other county partners. We have done an extensive discovery project over the last year, developed an assessment, a future state blueprint, and a roadmap for how we move forward with technology modernization. And for that work, we also started with resident needs. So questions like help me get health insurance, or help me pay for childcare, or help me feed my family, those kinds of things. And what is the technology that underlies those functions? We have a plan to move forward. We are working closely with residents first, and we look forward to getting started on that soon. And that project will also support workflow improvement, which are some of the challenges we just talked about in FAS. So fewer handoffs, more support for how people get their work done. Data improvement, one of the first things we intend to do is to use a tool that Hennepin County uses, particularly around revenue claiming and how our social service systems work. We think that will be another support for the revenue option. And at the same time, we have a lot of legacy applications, and those are older technologies that we need to keep going. We need to keep the lights on until we can retire or replace those. And so there is an investment in our operating budget for the retire and for basically keeping the lights on with all of our legacy systems, while we also will have project funding for human services modernization from our project funding. In the future, what I hope the Health and Wellness Administrative Division is supporting continued change for the service team. Better technology, talking to the community, providing services for the people who serve our residents, and trying to get better all the time. So with that, I stand for questions.
Okay, I see Commissioner McGuire's hand is up, and then Commissioner Fretham.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you so much, Director Schuster-Yeager. That was a great report, and I appreciate your highlighting the continuous improvement that we're looking for in the work that you're doing. So thank you for all of it. It's very exciting, and I'm, as you know, especially excited about the early childhood work that we're doing and that we're making just an internal part of all of our work. And so I know that, and my question is around that. We know that we got a really nice grant to do this work. And so we know that the challenge with grants is that once the grant is over, then the work goes back to where it used to be. And just, can you just talk a little bit about how that work will continue? Like the grant can show us how it can be done, and then we're hoping that that work will continue even when the grant goes away? Or can you just talk a little bit about that, the use of grants in these areas?
Yes, I share your concern about getting grants and grants going away. So the good news on this front is that our coordinator position is in our operating budget. It is not a grant funded position. So that is an investment we are making as a county that's an ongoing investment. The dollars that are coming in from the grant for the preschool development grant, which is the grant we're talking about, are all slated to go out to the community and will support the family coach model. So we'll be using those grant dollars both to establish a model, which we're doing with the EAC Family and Youth Committee, and have selected a model that was developed by the Kellogg Foundation. And I can't remember the exact name. It's something about Prepare and Prosper, I think. But in any case, it's a family coaching model. And we will be, so the grant will support some of our development of that, and that will include potentially family coaches across the county. And then depending on how the family coaches work, we'll have to make a decision about how those are supported in the future. But the grant itself and the core funding and the work we intend to do around changing is within the ecosystem of early childcare. There's a lot of investment in the community around this already. So we need to leverage the investment that's happening with the cities, with the counties, with the collaboratives, with libraries, with the schools. And so all of that, and with workforce development and with community economic development, and with all the touch points we already have. So we have a lot of existing investment in early childhood, and this is trying to pull it together.
And that makes my heart sing to hear all of that, because thank you for all of your work and for everyone's work on that. I know this board is from as long as I've been here and before that, been interested in and committed to this issue. So it's great to hear how this is working, and thanks to the community as well. So just appreciate that digging deeper into that issue. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Next, we have Commissioner Fretham, and after that, I'd like to get a time check on what we need to do for the final two for today and the break that's in here. Commissioner Fretham.
Not much of a question, just a request. I'd love to see the blueprint for the technology modernization. And if there's any sort of updates going out about that, I'd love to be included on that to track.
Thank you. Be happy to do that.
Okay. Deputy Dean, or what do we need as far as time for veteran services and especially public health, since that's scheduled for after a break? And it is about 5 minutes to 11 right now, I think. Yes.
Chair Reinhardt, thanks for the question. Veteran Services is actually one of our shorter updates. If it depends on everyone's ability to stay and listen for maybe 20 minutes and then a break.
And that gives us enough time to do, are we scheduled to go to 12:30 because we started a half hour later?
We are.
Okay, that's okay. So we are good. And are there other questions for Jennifer?
Sorry, Madam Chair, I'll just also say I will not have closing comments for today. We'll hold those for tomorrow. So that's 15 minutes.
All right. I just crossed it out. Okay. If there are no further questions, are there any questions from the chambers?
No, Madam Chair, there's not.
Okay. Then thank you very much. Very full report and some exciting things that are happening. We will move on then to Veteran Services and Director Maria Weatherall. This can be found in your budget books on pages 551 to 563.
Well, good morning, Madam Chair, Commissioners. Thank you for your consideration of the 2022-2023 Veteran Services budget. The Veteran Services Department is a levy-funded department providing direct services to veterans and people advocating for veterans. Our work is focused on responding to the unique needs, questions, and concerns of every person that contacts our office. Finding ways to maximize access to benefits and resources for those that we serve translates into the investment of federal and state dollars coming into the households and communities of Ramsey County. Ramsey County Veteran Services has come through personal and professional losses and hardships of the last 2 months by pulling together as a team and building on our organization's values: people, integrity, leadership, community, and equity. In spite of the challenges of the pandemic, we remain focused on the goal of supporting well-being, cultivating prosperity, delivering opportunity and accountability to the citizens of Ramsey County. Veteran Services has participated in all efforts focused on providing the lead and done in the last year. And those conversations are a starting point for our department to better understand how we can improve our services. With no permanent solution to the health challenges of our nation in sight, Veteran Services is fully committed to permanently altering how we do our work. We take steps every day to change how we deliver services, to improve how we advocate for those that we serve, with the health and safety of the community as our #1 priority. As the pandemic continues, we refocused on our greatest challenges, and some of these are going to sound very familiar. I think that many departments are experiencing similar challenges, and some of these actually are things that I brought forward to you last year when I was presenting to you. To start with, adapting and reinventing our systems, processes, and procedures to better serve people in new ways. We have adapted our service model using all of the technology, tools, strategies, and supports available to us. And thank you so much for all of the efforts you've put to making sure that our staff can work smarter and harder on behalf of the residents of Ramsey County. We learned that phone and email in a more effective and I would say non-traditional manner for our business. New ways of doing business will support us in offering people options. That's one of the benefits. Our initial assessment now includes a really good conversation about what will work best for communicating with people and working with them to meet their needs and assist them. Another challenge, which was spoken to in the remarks of my peers, finding a path forward to safely resume serving people in person. I think all of you know that building trust is a hugely important part of the work that we do. And oftentimes people really need to look into someone's eyes and see that advocate and know that advocate. They are served. So this has been a challenge for us, and it will continue to be a challenge. The crisis of the last year has taught us a great deal about the importance of connecting with people that we serve in person. So after a year of isolation, we are now taking our first tentative steps towards the new normal as we gradually implement a limited number of in-person appointments and home visits on a more regular schedule. Another challenge for all of us, especially here in Veteran Services, staying focused how we can better serve veterans who are in the greatest need. And those would be those lacking safe housing, consistent health care, and stable support systems. The staff of Veteran Services has found ways to turn the challenges of the pandemic into opportunities for more effective partnerships. We have gained better access to resources by these partnerships, and these partnerships in particular benefit the elderly and homeless veterans with difficulty getting their basic needs met. Connecting and working with our community improves our response and service to veterans who are isolated, in crisis, and homeless. In other words, those who need to connect with people most, need us as advocates the most. The resources that have been provided and shared within the Health and Wellness Service team brought us a long way in that regard, and we work harder every day to connect with people, to provide reassurance and access to resources, services, and benefits. Finally, reinventing education and outreach, now with the priority of seeking new and better reach racially and ethnically diverse populations to better serve them. We welcome our newest staff member, Angie Gunther, in the role of Race Health Equity Liaison, and have already begun the work of finding new ways to connect with and serve racially and ethnically diverse communities. You'll hear a little more about that later. Although our overall work is designed to serve all veterans and their surviving spouses with the same commitment and passion, our performance measures are focused on those more vulnerable populations. Available data tells us that veterans are disproportionately impacted by veteran registered color compared to the total 9% of veterans being people of color in Minnesota. The number of veterans from the Homeless Veteran Registry did decrease, and we believe that some of this can be attributed to a stagnation in the rental housing market created by the eviction moratorium in the nation. The crisis that defined 2020 did create a huge boom in emergency shelter capacity, and we are hopeful that with stability and better access to services and benefits provided through the motel and shelter programs now available, number around in 2020 to come out on the other side with an increase in homeless veteran registry. Our performance measure at the percentage of people served by our social worker, a position that we are so grateful for, that is provided to us by social services, who works with people who are being services, does reflect that the social worker continues to be successful in housing that help them to access food support and medical assistance, that connect them with programs and services that will help with difficult transitions.
I believe that information, by the way, is on page 553 for commissioners to look at.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Mm-hmm.
Taking greater advantage of programs like the Housing Stabilization Program launched in 2020 and the benefits of the waivers to program eligibility for other programs provided by FAS and social services has been a focus for the year. We refocused again on how can we make these connections for people. The staff has become increasingly dependent on the support and expertise and the outstanding our social worker, and we believe that we can continue to improve on that number. There's always room for improvement for us to broaden our scope and make sure that people are connected with all of the benefits available to them that our partners within Ramsey County and in the community provide. So now I'll transition to our work to try and improve how we work with racially and ethnically diverse populations. Ramsey County is the most racially and ethnically diverse county in the state, and this diversity is reflected in the veterans being served by Ramsey County Veteran Services. We are committed to providing veterans, their dependents, and survivors timely, detailed, and culturally responsive services. Ramsey County Veteran Services staff is currently participating in facilitated biweekly discussions focused on developing our fundamental understanding of race, ethnicity, and how systemic racism currently impacts how we serve. We're working on it. We're working on it together. Helping staff understand government's role in promoting equity ensures that Veteran Services staff are prepared to deliver their full commitment to transforming systems together. Our new Race Health Equity Liaison has added capacity to Ramsey County Veteran Services to examine our current practices and procedures through a race equity lens. With the help of Health and Wellness Administration Research and Evaluation Unit, we are currently designing a survey that will target veterans in the community to gather their input and guidance on improving how we serve underserved and underrepresented veterans and their families. We hope to implement the survey in Q4 of 2021 and use that information to inform our race equity action plan for 2022. Ramsey County Veteran Services is currently in the process of hiring new staff and has taken this as an opportunity to look at our traditional hiring practices in a whole new way. Understanding that veterans could potentially provide critical insight to characteristics, skills, and qualities most needed in a veteran service officer, Ramsey County Veteran Services sought out ways to include their experience and perspectives in the process. These initial steps to include veterans in the hiring process will provide a better foundation for all hiring in our department now and in the future. Looking to the future, when I spoke to the board last fall, I emphasized that our hope that Veteran Services would maximize use of the Ramsey County Service Centers to support partnerships and collaborative efforts with our internal and external partners. I remember that Commissioner Modis Castillo shared her belief that universal screening processes and direct referral processes could help us to reduce disparities and ensure that all of the people we serve have equal access to programs and benefits that would help them to improve their health and quality. And I believe that insight is as valid today. Brought it forward last year. How we serve through the use of service centers and navigators to expand the collaborative potentials available to us. In particular, of course, in the Health and Wellness Service team, but across the county in general. We support countywide efforts to work. Operational models like this would include co-locating several departments in offices and workspaces that are designed to make it easier for us to connect with citizens. We see so much potential in what we have learned by being a part of the Health and Wellness Service team, for those connections to be made by staff, for us to work together to try and ensure that people understand how we are here to serve them. We've improved how we connect with people who are being served by public health, by people that apply for benefits through financial assistance services. We've been supported and partnered with correction staff in serving homeless veterans and veterans on probation or participating in the Veterans Court. We've seen how we can work together through our efforts to partner with the community, really transform systems together, reinvent first. It is a welcoming, accessible, inclusive organization that brings and responds to their creativity and ideas. We really believe in this, and we stand ready to participate in the service centers, with the navigators, with all of the great work that's being done to reinvent how we serve people in Ramsey County. Last, I think it's important that I clarify that the would not support and sacrifice of the Health and Wellness Service team, departments, all of their staff and their leaders. All of the efforts, strategies, actions, and trade-offs made by HWAD, social services, corrections, public health, and FAS are the most important factor in our current budget. On behalf of myself and the Veteran Services staff. The dedication, hard work, and commitment of the Health and Wellness Service team departments has been and will be a critical component in ensuring that Veteran Services can continue to serve the mission, vision provided to guide our work. Thank you.
Thank you. I would like to comment here that I think when I think back to when I started as a commissioner, and Veteran Services was really something that was off to the side. And I think that the work that has happened, especially since you have become the director, Maria, is that it's bringing it to the point that you just talked about, and that is the collaborative, that's all collaboration and the potential. And I think that is to Veteran County, because you are absolutely correct. It's not something that could have been done under the old model. It wasn't being done. And for the public, I think it's important. I mean, health and well-being and the service team, and the numbers that we are talking about as far as vacancy factors and all these different things. And you've got a department, a team, I should say, that is 7 people. So when they're there, that's, I mean, it's 1/7 of what you need to accomplish. So again, the collaboration is something that's incredibly important. Those really trying to do the very best you can to meet the needs through those partnerships for our veterans, I think is incredibly important. And I can tell you that other commissioners could also state the same thing, is we hear in the community about the excellent service that is provided by our veteran services. And that's not the case across the state. Stands out in that area. And I know that you work with other veterans actually in the metro area as well. So I just really, the work that you do with 7 people, 7 staff members is pretty incredible. So I just wanted to note that. Are there questions from commissioners either on Zoom or in the chambers?
None in the chamber. If Madam Chair, if I could just make one quick comment. Thank you, Maria, for a great presentation and a just and focus on our veterans and how we do that work in collaboration. I would be remiss if I don't bring it up, so I'll do it again until we get there. But I appreciate our focus on racial and racial equity in this space, as we know that often people of color who are veterans are underserved. But this is one space we also have to bring gender into play. And so I will continue to encourage you as you're doing your outreach and focus on the underserved veterans to make sure that we're looking at our GLBTQ and women veterans in particular as we do this outreach, as they're often oversight, and to make sure that that's a priority.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments from commissioners? Okay, well, I don't know if you can see it, Maria, but we have claps and thumbs up things that are on the screen as well.
Thank you so
okay,
much.
it is now 11:15, and I think, and I will just double check, is a 10-minute break something that is doable so that we can still get through public health?
Madam Chair, you're scheduled for a 15-minute break. You are dead on time right now. 11:30.
All right, we will come back at 11:30 and then finish up with public health and then an overview. Thank you.